Okay, guys, I have a joke for you. You ready? Okay. Hey, Blue, why did the turtle cross the road? To get to the Shell station. You get it? He's got a shell. He needs the shell. It's a Shell station because it's a kind of gas station. No? Okay. All right, well, let's do some art. All right. Who remembers the elements of art? Anyone? Anyone? We talked about the elements of art a lot at the beginning of the year. As a reminder, some of the elements of art, you have line, value, shape, color, space, texture, and form. So the elements of art actually tie to the principles of design. The principles of design describe the ways that the artists use the elements of art in a work of art. So, my friends, let's take a look at what the principles of design are. The principles of design! You have balance, unity, pattern, repetition, proportion, rhythm, and emphasis. So I'm going to start tying in both the elements of art and the principles of design into the projects that we are going to focus on. So for this week, we are going to focus on the element of art known as space. And no, not the final frontier. Space is one of the basic elements of art. It refers to the distance between or the area around and within shapes, forms, colors, and lines. Space can be positive or negative. It includes the background, foreground, and middle ground. Basically, you guys, when you get out a piece of paper, you have a whole big space to fill. So artists tend to think about different ways to fill that space. And the principle of design we're focusing on is repetition. Repetition is simply repeating a single element many times in a design. So with those two different things in mind, we have space as our element of art and repetition as our principle of design. We're going to take a look at an artist named Wayne Thiebaud. This is Mr. Wayne Thiebaud, and he uses space and repetition in an interesting way. All these images that are going by show you some of the similar elements repeated over and over again. So as you're looking at these images, think about how he is choosing to use the space that he has to work with, and think about how he's using repetition. Well, some of the easy ways to notice that he's using repetition is he's using some of the similar objects over and over again. But he's also consistently using some similar tones and some similar shapes and forms. So, my friends, today we're going to do a Wayne Thiebaud inspired project. You will need some paper, you will need something to draw with, and something to color with. So with mine, I chose to draw with a permanent marker, and then I chose to color it in using watercolor paints. So you may pause this video and get all the things you need, and let's get started. Okay, since it's getting warmer out, I thought it would be fun to do a Wayne Thiebaud inspired set of ice cream cones. My paper is in the landscape orientation. I point to the middle at the top, scooch down, put a dot. From that dot, I'm going to draw a diagonal line that comes down almost halfway down my paper, and then it comes down the opposite way, so it kind of looks like a big mountain right now. Now, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up evening it out just a little bit if I need to, and then I am going to turn it around, and there's my cone. So I'm going to go back to the top of my paper, and I'm going to draw a big hill, and it's not connected yet. And from that hill, I'm going to draw some squiggly little lines that are going to connect both sides of the hill. So here goes my squiggly lines, and it connects. Sometimes I make little droopy points, so it looks kind of like my ice cream is melting. And still, that scoop of ice cream still isn't connected. So what I'm going to do is make a little curved line down, And I am watching out to see and make sure it's going to match up with my cone eventually. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to repeat what I've done and add those squiggly lines across. See, we're repeating lines already. Yeehaw! And I connect it to the other side. And my cone still isn't matched up, so I'm going to do another scoop. Maybe your cone is too close and you want to connect right away. That's okay. So remember, my project is going to look different than your project. Now my last one, squiggle down. It's going to hit my cone. It has a curvy line across. And it's going to come back up and, ooh, that looks yummy. I want ice cream. Sorry, I need to focus. So you know how I work, you guys. I go back in and I darken some of my lines. Right now, my lines aren't consistently bold, so I tend to work back in and make my lines nice and thick so that, you know, it is constantly the same throughout. All right. Once I get my lines nice and dark, I'm going to start to add some detail in my cone. So I'm going to go to that cone and I'm going to draw some diagonal lines coming from the ice cream to that point, okay? So they're almost meeting at the bottom of the cone. My favorite kind of cone is a waffle cone. I don't know about you guys. Maybe your favorite kind of cone is a different kind of cone, but to me, it's waffle or nothing. All right, I'm pretty picky about my cone. Now I'm going to draw some more diagonal lines that are crossing to give it that texture of a waffle cone. And huzzah! Take a look at my ice cream cone. It's almost set. But here's the thing. I haven't filled my space. I have some empty space. And when we were talking about space, we talked about positive space and negative space. Well, my positive space would be my subject, which is my ice cream cone. Now, my negative space is everything around it. But I'm going to fill more space, so I'm going to scooch over, like I did before, put that dot, and we're going to do the same thing. This time, however, I think I'm going to have 2 scoops of ice cream on this cone. And on the cone on the other side, I think I'm just going to have 2 as well, so that I have the biggest cone in the middle. So I'm going to scooch over to the opposite side, dot, diagonal, diagonal, and then flip. Okay, so I'm going to start over here. I'm going to make my first scoop down a little bit lower, still kind of hovering over that cone. I make that curved line, whoop, and those wiggly woo little droopy droops lines. You don't want your ice cream too melty though, am I right everybody? So I got my ice cream. I'm going to have a line that curves down to the cone. And here we go. We're going to get our melty ice cream lines. Oh, that's looking tasty. You guys, I should probably stop recording and go and eat some ice cream. So you guys have fun and just good luck with your... I'm just kidding. But I totally want to do that because I really like ice cream. Okay. So I have my lines coming into my cone. Got my lines crossing them. And basically going to be doing the same thing on the opposite side. So if you really want to go to town and make a giant ice cream cone, maybe what you could do too is maybe you could start another drawing where you make it go the portrait orientation where it's the tall way, and you can make a giant ice cream cone with a bunch of ice cream scoops. If you really want to do that, that would be really awesome too. You'd basically follow the same sequence of steps, but your first scoop would be way higher up. So I'm going to be really jealous of all your ice cream, I could tell. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing I did on the right side. Okay, so at this point, my friends, I'm going to stop talking and you guys can continue to watch as I draw. Or some of you already have a good idea of what you're supposed to be doing. If you have a good idea, well then, excellent. Keep it up. Now, I'm going to show you a picture when I'm all done of my finished ice cream. I used watercolors to paint them in. And my friends, if you rewind and look back at Wayne Thiebaud's ice cream cones, you see some pretty dark shadows, okay? And that's one of the reasons why his artwork is so neat looking, is he gives it a lot of dramatic shadows, okay? So whatever you're doing, I want you to add some shadows, like your ice cream is standing all by itself, but it's creating these really dark shadows. And in a moment, you'll see my finished picture with all my colors in and my dark shadows. If you want to add things like cherries or whipped cream or some like chocolate chunks inside your ice cream, go for it. I cannot wait to see what you make because, well, I love ice cream and I love seeing what you guys make, so it's a win-win. Okay, my friends, here are my ice cream cones all painted in. I added some pretty big shadows at the bottom, and I tried to change up the colors so that they didn't have the same colors right next to each other. And this is my version of a Wayne Thiebaud piece. I took up the space. You can tell that I use repetition because I am repeating some of the basic shapes that you see and some of the same textures. So, I would love to see your pictures of your ice cream cones. Pretty please share them with me on Seesaw. I can't wait to see what you create.